Self-mummification. Self-mummification, also known as Sokushinbutsu, was a religious practice undertaken by some Buddhist monks in Japan, particularly during the Edo period, 1603–1868. The process was a form of extreme asceticism where monks sought to transform themselves into living Buddhas by gradually starving their bodies and eventually mummifying themselves while still alive. This practice required a strict regimen of self-denial and physical preparation, including a special diet that eliminated all body fat, followed by consuming only small amounts of water, herbs, and tree bark. Eventually, the monk would enter a tomb and meditate until death, with the hope of achieving enlightenment and immortality through this self-sacrifice. While revered in some religious circles for its deep commitment, the practice was extremely rare and dangerous, requiring intense mental and spiritual dedication. In the late 19th century, Japan's government outlawed self-mummification due to concerns about public health and ethical implications. The practice was seen as too extreme and controversial, as it involved a slow, intentional path to death, which was incompatible with modern views on life and death. Additionally, with the rise of Western influences during the Meiji Restoration, Japan sought to modernize and distance itself from certain ancient traditions, leading to the ban on Sokushinbutsu. Today, preserved remains of self-mummified monks can still be found in some temples, serving as relics of a unique but forbidden spiritual pursuit: karma burial. Karma burial is a unique and rare burial practice rooted in the belief that one's burial can influence their karma, or the karmic balance of their soul in future reincarnations. This concept is more common in Eastern spiritual traditions, where karma, the law of cause and effect, plays a central role in determining one's fate in this life and future lives. In karma burial practices, it is believed that the manner in which a person is buried and the rituals performed at the burial can either accumulate good karma or help cleanse negative karma. The burial method is sometimes tied to the deceased's actions in life, with the aim of ensuring a favorable rebirth or spiritual liberation. One example of a karmic-influenced burial can be found in Tibetan Buddhism, particularly in sky burials, where bodies are exposed to nature, often to be consumed by birds. In this practice, the body is viewed as an empty vessel, with the soul having moved on to another plane. Allowing the body to feed animals is seen as an act of compassion and generosity, thus accumulating positive karma for the deceased. While karma burial practices are not uniform and vary significantly across cultures, they generally reflect the belief that death is not an end, but a transformative moment that can affect one's spiritual journey. Castrati. Castrati were male singers who were castrated before puberty to preserve their high-pitched voices, a practice that was particularly prominent in European classical music during the 17th and 18th centuries. The castration prevented the voice from deepening, allowing castrati to retain the vocal range of a soprano or alto, but with the lung power and resonance of an adult male. This unique combination gave their voices an ethereal, powerful quality that was highly prized in opera and sacred music, especially in Italian churches where women were often prohibited from singing. The castrati were often seen as musical celebrities, performing in royal courts and churches, and some, like Farinelli and Alessandro Moreschi, achieved immense fame and wealth. However, the practice came with serious ethical and physical consequences. Castration at a young age not only halted the singer's vocal maturation, but also had profound effects on their physical development, often resulting in elongated limbs and other health complications. The procedure, often forced upon boys from poor families who were seeking a path to wealth and social advancement, was brutal and irreversible. By the late 19th century, changing social attitudes and medical ethics led to the decline of the practice, and it was officially banned by the Catholic Church in 1903. Today, the legacy of the castrati remains a poignant reminder of the lengths to which society once went in pursuit of musical excellence, and it raises important questions about the cost of such practices. Self-immolation. Self-immolation is the act of setting oneself on fire, typically as a form of political or religious protest. This extreme form of sacrifice has been used throughout history to draw attention to perceived injustices or to express deep moral or spiritual conviction. One of the most well-known instances occurred in 1963, when Vietnamese Buddhist monk Thich Quang Duc immolated himself in protest against the oppressive policies of the South Vietnamese government, particularly its treatment of Buddhists. Photographs of his calm, meditative posture amidst the flames captured the world's attention, becoming an iconic image of resistance and the power of non-violent protest. In such cases, self-immolation is seen as a powerful, though tragic statement that aims to shake the conscience of those in power or society at large. While it is often linked to political causes, self-immolation also has deep religious roots in some traditions, where it is viewed as a final act of renunciation. In certain interpretations of Buddhist, Hindu, and Jain asceticism, the act can be seen as a means to break the cycle of suffering or to attain a higher state of spiritual purity. However, the practice remains controversial and is met with mixed reactions globally. While some see it as a powerful, peaceful form of protest, others view it as a desperate and destructive act. Regardless of the perspective, self-immolation continues to be used in modern times, especially in regions where marginalized groups feel that conventional means of protest are ineffective. Dakhma. A dakhma, also known as a tower of silence, is a structure used in Zoroastrian funerary practices for the exposure of the dead. Zoroastrians, followers of one of the world's oldest monotheistic religions, believe that dead bodies are impure and that they can contaminate sacred elements such as earth, fire, and water. To avoid defiling these elements, they practice a form of sky burial where the bodies of the deceased are placed on top of a raised, circular stone tower, where they are exposed to the elements and scavenging birds, primarily vultures. The bones, after being stripped clean by the birds, are eventually gathered in a central pit within the tower, where they disintegrate naturally over time. The Dakhma practice is deeply tied to Zoroastrian principles of purity and environmental sustainability, as it avoids polluting the earth or air with decomposition. However, in modern times, the practice has declined due to urbanization, changes in legal and social regulations, and the dwindling population of vultures in some regions. In countries like India, where Zoroastrian communities, such as the Parsis, are most prominent, this decline has led to the adoption of alternative funeral practices, including cremation or burial. Despite these changes, the Dakhma remains a powerful symbol of Zoroastrian beliefs about life, death, and the sacredness of the natural world. Chhaupadi. Chhaupadi is an ancient cultural practice observed in parts of Nepal, particularly in rural and Hindu communities, where women are considered impure during menstruation and postpartum periods. Under this tradition, menstruating women and those who have recently given birth are banished to small, often unsanitary huts or sheds, known as chowgoths, located away from their homes. During these times, women are prohibited from entering the household, touching food, religious objects, or even interacting with other family members. The belief behind Chhaupadi stems from the notion that menstruation is polluting, and contact with menstruating women could bring misfortune or anger the gods. Women can be confined to these sheds for several days, depending on local customs. The practice has severe health and safety implications. Women confined to these makeshift shelters are at risk of exposure to extreme weather conditions, snake bites, and assault, and some have tragically died from hypothermia, animal attacks, or inhalation of smoke from fires lit inside the small huts. Despite being outlawed by the Nepalese Supreme Court in 2005, Chhaupadi persists in some regions due to deeply entrenched cultural and religious beliefs. Ongoing efforts by the government and non-governmental organizations aim to eradicate the practice by raising awareness, improving menstrual health education, and addressing the gender-based discrimination that underpins it. The movement to end Chhaupadi is part of a broader campaign for women's rights and dignity in Nepal. Trial by combat. The trial by combat ban refers to a controversial practice that existed in some cultures, where combat was used as a method to settle disputes or accusations of wrongdoing. In this context, individuals could challenge one another to a duel, often as a means to resolve conflicts, defend honor, or address grievances. This form of combat could take various shapes, including armed duels, ritualized fighting, or physical contests, depending on the cultural and historical context. However, such practices have increasingly come under scrutiny and faced bans due to concerns about violence, injury, and the moral implications of resolving conflicts through combat. The notion that disputes can be settled through physical confrontation raises significant ethical questions, as it often glorifies violence and undermines principles of justice and due process. Modern legal systems generally emphasize mediation, negotiation, and legal recourse over physical combat as a means of resolving conflicts, leading to the prohibition of practices like trial by combat in many societies. Headhunting. Headhunting refers to the practice of taking the heads of defeated enemies, or those from rival tribes, as trophies, a tradition that has existed in various cultures throughout history. This practice was often associated with ritualistic beliefs, warfare, and social status, serving multiple purposes such as demonstrating bravery, instilling fear, and enhancing one's reputation within a community. Headhunting was practiced by several indigenous groups worldwide, including the Maori of New Zealand, the Aztecs of Mesoamerica, and various tribes in the Amazon rainforest and Southeast Asia. In many cultures, the act of headhunting was not merely a brutal practice. It often held deep spiritual significance. For instance, among the Iban people of Borneo, taking a head was believed to capture the spirit of the slain enemy, which would enhance the power and prestige of the warrior. Rituals surrounding headhunting could involve elaborate ceremonies, the preparation of the head, and its display as a symbol of victory. However, with the spread of modernity, colonialism, and changing cultural values, many of these practices have been abandoned or suppressed. Animal sacrifice. Animal sacrifice is a ritualistic practice that involves the killing of animals as offerings to deities, spirits, or ancestors, serving various purposes such as seeking divine favor, atoning for sins, or marking significant life events. Many cultures throughout history have embraced this practice, viewing it as a means of establishing a connection between the spiritual and physical realms. In some traditions, the act of sacrifice is believed to bring blessings, protection, or guidance, making it an integral part of their religious ceremonies. In contemporary society, however, animal sacrifice has faced increasing scrutiny and legal restrictions due to concerns about animal welfare and ethical considerations. Many countries have enacted laws that regulate or prohibit ritual animal slaughter, particularly when such practices do not adhere to humane treatment standards. This has sparked debates about cultural heritage versus animal rights, as advocates for prohibition argue that animal sacrifice is inhumane and unnecessary, while some religious practitioners see these bans as infringements on their beliefs and traditions. The tension surrounding animal sacrifice highlights the broader challenges of reconciling traditional religious practices with modern ethical standards regarding the treatment of animals. Bloodletting rituals. Bloodletting rituals have been practiced in various cultures throughout history as a means of purification, healing, or appeasing deities. These rituals typically involve the deliberate release of blood from the body, which is often believed to carry impurities or illnesses. In some indigenous cultures, bloodletting was performed during religious ceremonies or as part of healing practices, with the belief that it would restore balance and health. For example, the ancient Greeks used bloodletting as a medical treatment, believing that it could cure ailments by removing bad blood. Similarly, in some Mesoamerican cultures, bloodletting was an integral part of religious rituals where participants would pierce their skin to offer blood to gods as a form of devotion. However, as societies evolved and modern medical knowledge advanced, many bloodletting practices came under scrutiny and faced bans due to concerns about health risks, hygiene, and the ethical treatment of individuals. Bloodletting can lead to severe physical harm, including infection, excessive blood loss, and long-term health complications. In many countries, such practices have been deemed unsafe and are no longer considered acceptable forms of medical or spiritual treatment. The ban on bloodletting rituals reflects a broader shift toward prioritizing individual health and safety, as well as the ethical implications of practices that can endanger participants. Today, while some forms of bloodletting may persist in specific cultural or religious contexts, they are often regulated or prohibited to prevent harm and ensure the well-being of individuals involved. If you missed part 1 of Banned Religious Practices, now's your chance to catch up. In the previous episode, we explored illegal religious practices, examined their historical significance, and the ethical concerns surrounding them. Join us on this enlightening journey, and be sure to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell to stay updated.